Ever wish you could just like get people, really understand what makes them tick without having to like wade through a whole bunch of complicated psychology theories?
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Yeah.
Kind of a crash course
It's it.
in reading people.
Yeah.
So think of this as your like cheat sheet to...
Your cheat sheet to becoming more insightful.
Yeah, to being insightful, to understanding the people around you.
Absolutely. And we've been deep diving into this fantastic book.
Yes.
By Patrick King. It's called Read People Like a Book, How to Analyze, Understand, and Predict People's Emotions, Thoughts, Intentions, and Behaviors.
Whoa, that is a mouthful.
It is. And it's a total treasure trove. I mean, there's so much in here.
Yeah.
And our goal today is to pull out like the juiciest bits, the stuff that's really going to give you those aha moments,
Yeah, totally. And it's not just about like figuring out if someone's lying or, guessing their mood. It goes way deeper than that, right?
It does. The book gets into everything from our basic motivations.
Okay.
Like what drives us at our core.
Yeah.
To the unspoken language of body language.
Yeah.
Those subtle signals that we often miss.
Yeah.
Even the impact of personality and the spaces we create around ourselves.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
And we're going to break it all down in a way that's super practical.
Awesome.
So you can actually start using these insights like right away.
That's what we want.
So we'll start by tackling the idea that reading people is actually a learnable skill.
Okay.
Not some magical gift.
I like that.
From there, we'll explore the fundamental forces behind our actions, the often hidden world of nonverbal communication, how to spot those telltale signs of deception,
Okay.
the fascinating patterns of personality, the secrets our environments reveal, even how our word choices betray our thoughts.
Okay.
And finally, we'll tie it all together with the power of emotional intelligence.
All right. I am ready to sharpen my perception skills.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
So, one of the most fundamental ideas in this book is that understanding people, it's not something you're just born with. It's a skill, Like anything else, it's something you can actually learn and get better at.
I like that.
And that's empowering, right?
It is, yeah, definitely.
Because it means that anyone
Yeah.
can become more perceptive, more attuned to what's really going on with the people around them.
Okay, so how do we start? Where's the starting point for kind of developing that skill?
Well, the book talks about this idea of the black box.
The black box, yeah.
You've heard of that concept?
I have, yeah. It's like with airplanes.
Exactly.
When they're trying to figure out what happened.
It's like this hidden container of information.
Yeah.
And it's really relevant here, too.
Okay.
So think about it this way. We see what people say.
Right.
We see what they do.
Uh-huh.
Those are like the inputs and outputs, right?
Okay.
But their actual thoughts and feelings, the stuff that's going on inside,
Yeah.
that's all hidden inside that metaphorical black box.
Oh, okay, I see.
We only have their external behavior to go on.
So it's kind of like we're detectives
In a way, yeah.
trying to piece together clues
Absolutely.
to figure out what's really going on in their minds.
You got it.
I like that.
And the thing is, because we don't have direct access to those inner thoughts, it's so easy to jump to conclusions.
Well, that's right. Yeah, we all do.
We make these snap judgments based on, very limited information.
Yeah, or our own assumptions too, right?
Absolutely. Our own biases and past experiences, all that stuff colors how we interpret things.
Totally. So, like, if someone walks by you with a frown on their face,
Right.
you might automatically assume they're upset with you, when really they could just be having a bad day.
Exactly.
Or they're worried about something completely unrelated to you.
Right. The book really cautions us against those kinds of knee-jerk reactions.
So how do we avoid that trap? How do we get better at reading people?
So one of the key strategies is to establish what's called the behavioral baseline.
A behavioral baseline.
So what that means is understanding what's normal
Okay.
for that particular person.
Got it.
So let's say you have a colleague who's usually super outgoing,
Right.
always chatting, super social.
Yeah.
And then one day they're really quiet and withdrawn.
Okay.
That change in their behavior,
Yeah.
that's a much more significant clue than if you just met someone for the first time
Right.
and they happen to be quiet.
Because you don't have anything to compare it to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You don't know if that's their usual way of being or if something's off.
Interesting.
And the other thing that's really important that goes hand in hand with the baseline
Yeah.
is context.
Context.
The situation, the environment, all of that plays a huge role in how we interpret behavior.
Got it.
So The book uses this example of someone at a party who seems really standoffish.
Okay, I can picture this.
They've got their arms crossed, not making much eye contact.
Right.
You might automatically think,
oh, they're not very friendly.
not friendly, yeah.
Yeah.
But if you factor in their baseline, maybe they're just naturally shy or introverted.
Mm-hmm.
And in the context, a crowded party can be really overwhelming.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for someone who's not a huge fan of big social gatherings.
Definitely.
So those crossed arms might not mean they're unfriendly at all.
Right.
It might be their way of kind of protecting themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Or a sign that they're feeling a bit uncomfortable in that environment.
Okay, yeah, so it's like their body language is matching their internal feeling of maybe being overwhelmed.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's like this aha moment, right?
Yeah.
When you realize
Totally.
that context can totally change the meaning of what you're seeing.
Yeah, it's not just black and white. There's so much nuance to it.
So much nuance.
It makes you realize you might have misjudged people in the past.
Oh, for sure.
Based on just like a quick glance.
Absolutely. We've all been there.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so we know reading people is a skill we can develop.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to remember baseline and context.
Okay.
But what's actually driving these behaviors in the first place? Like, what's motivating people at their core?
So that brings us to what the book calls the pleasure principle.
The pleasure principle, okay.
And this is basically the idea that at a fundamental level, humans are driven to seek out pleasure.
Okay, makes sense.
And avoid pain.
Right, that's pretty intuitive.
It sounds super obvious.
Yeah.
But the implications of it are actually really profound.
Okay, how so?
Well, think about it. This basic drive,
it
often overrides logic.
Right.
And it can explain why we make decisions that aren't necessarily in our long-term best interest.
Okay, yeah. Like when you know you should eat a salad, but you really want that burger and fries.
Exactly. The immediate gratification of that juicy burger, it outweighs the, more abstract future benefit of eating healthy.
And the immediate pain of resisting the burger is too much to bear.
Exactly.
Oh, man.
And the book points out this interesting asymmetry.
Okay.
Which is that we're often even more motivated to avoid pain than we are to gain an equal amount of pleasure.
Interesting.
So the fear of losing something, for example, is often a stronger motivator than the potential of gaining something of equal value.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like that saying, it hurts more to lose than it feels good to win.
Exactly. It's like that feeling of loss is so much more potent than the feeling of gain.
So when we zoom out and look at the bigger picture, how many of our decisions are driven by this primal desire to avoid discomfort?
Right. Think about it.
Even if it means sacrificing something that would benefit us in the long run.
That's exactly it. We're wired for that immediate gratification.
Yeah.
To seek out what feels good right now and avoid what feels bad.
Totally. Like that coworker who keeps putting off a project. Maybe it's not just procrastination.
Right. Maybe it's that the immediate pain of doing that hard work,
it feels too big,
outweighs the potential future pain of missing a deadline.
Exactly.
Which, in the moment feels far off.
Right. It's this abstract thing in the future.
Yeah.
Whereas the discomfort of the task is right here, right now.
Makes total sense. So how can we use this to our advantage? Like if we want to motivate someone.
Yeah. Well, one of the takeaways here is that if you can figure out what someone perceives as pleasurable or painful, you can really tap into that to influence their behavior.
Interesting.
So even offering like a small immediate reward, a little hit of pleasure, can sometimes be enough to help them overcome that avoidance of a task that they find unpleasant.
Okay, that's super helpful.
So it's not always about grand gestures. Sometimes it's those little things that can make a big difference.
Okay, I like that. So we've talked about what drives us, but sometimes what people say
doesn't quite match what they're showing us.
Right.
And that's where nonverbal communication comes in, right?
Right, absolutely. This is where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Because nonverbal cues, things like body language, facial expressions, tone of voice, these often reveal way more about someone's true emotional state than their actual words.
Interesting.
Because these signals, they often bypass our conscious control.
So it's like they're leaking out the truth.
In a way, yeah.
Even if they're trying to say something different?
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating. So what should we be paying attention to specifically?
Well, one of the most fascinating things is microexpressions.
Microexpressions, yeah, I've heard of those.
Have you?
Yeah, but I don't really understand what they are.
Okay, so there are these really brief, involuntary facial movements.
Okay.
They happen super fast. like fractions of a second.
So fast you can barely see them.
Almost, yeah. But they can reveal concealed emotions, even if someone's actively trying to mask how they're feeling.
Interesting.
So the book talks about the work of Paul Ekman.
Okay.
This is a pioneer in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And he identified 6 universal emotions that are consistently expressed through these microexpressions.
So no matter where you are in the world,
exactly.
These are the same?
The same across cultures.
Wow, that's incredible. What are they?
So there's happiness, sadness, disgust, anger, fear, and surprise.
Okay.
And these are thought to be like hardwired into our brains.
Wow.
It's like our limbic system, the more primitive part of our brain that deals with emotions.
Right.
It kind of bypasses our conscious control and leaks out these tiny facial expressions.
So even if someone's telling you they're not angry,
right,
but you see a quick flash of anger around their eyes, you know they're not being totally truthful.
It's a clue, right, that something else is going on beneath the surface.
That's amazing. Okay, but do we always have to be on the lookout for these micro expressions? Like, is that the only thing we should be paying attention to?
Well, the book cautions against drawing conclusions from isolated nonverbal cues.
Okay, right.
It's really important to consider the bigger picture.
Context.
Exactly. Context is everything.
Got it.
So someone might cross their arms because they're feeling cold.
Yeah.
Not because they're being defensive.
Right.
You know? So you have to take all the information into account.
So how do we get better at interpreting these signals accurately, like in real life situations?
So the book has this great example of a vendor in a negotiation.
Okay, I'm listening.
So they're verbally projecting confidence about their pricing, saying this is the best deal you're going to get.
Right, classic negotiation tactic.
Totally. But then you notice a fleeting micro-expression of fear.
Okay.
Maybe their eyes widen for a split second.
Right.
Or their lips press together tightly.
Okay.
And maybe their body language shifts slightly too.
No.
Maybe they lean back a little or cross their arms.
Oh, interesting.
So all these nonverbal cues, that fleeting expression of fear, the change in posture, they contradict their confident words.
So their body is telling a different story.
Exactly. And as a negotiator, that gives you some valuable insight.
Okay, yeah. So it's like you're getting a glimpse into their real thoughts.
Exactly. It's a real-world example of how these nonverbal signals can be so powerful.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we're looking for consistency between what someone's saying and what their body language is telling us. What happens when those things don't align?
That's where we get into the realm of lie detection.
Oh, okay. This is getting juicy.
And one of the most important things to remember here is that there's no single telltale sign.
Oh.
That always means someone's lying.
So it's not like in the movies where their nose twitches or something?
No, not quite.
Okay.
It's more about recognizing inconsistencies across different signals.
So, like, their words don't match their facial expression?
Exactly. So, for example, someone might be telling you a story.
Yeah.
And their words sound convincing, but their emotional expression seems flat.
Flat effect.
You got it. It's like their face doesn't match the emotions they're describing.
Okay.
So if they're recounting a sad event, but their facial expression is completely neutral, that's a red flag.
Interesting. So it's like they're not genuinely feeling the emotions they're talking about.
Right. It's like they're putting on a performance, but they're not fully committed to it.
It's like their body's betraying them.
Exactly.
Fascinating. Are there any other patterns we should be looking for?
So the book also talks about how people handle uncertainty when they're being questioned.
Right.
So someone who's telling the truth, they're usually more comfortable admitting when they don't know something.
Makes sense.
They might say, you know, I'm not actually sure about that. Or I'd have to double check. But someone who's lying, they might feel the need to fill in all the gaps.
Oh, so they invent details.
Exactly. They try to make their story sound more convincing.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So if you're asking specific questions and they're giving you these elaborate answers, that seem a bit too perfect.
Okay.
That's a clue.
So instead of just looking for, like, shifty eyes, which, you know, we've all heard is supposed to be a sign of lying.
Yeah, the classic tell.
But maybe not so reliable.
Not necessarily, no.
We should be paying attention to their whole response.
Their words, their emotional reaction, any physical cues like fidgeting. It's all part of the puzzle.
Got it. Now, what about physical signs like increased blinking or playing with their hair?
So those things can definitely be indicators of nervousness or discomfort.
Right.
Which could be related to lying, but they can also just be signs of general anxiety.
Okay.
Or, someone's personality.
So you can't rely on those alone.
Not in isolation, no.
You have to look at the whole picture.
Exactly. The book has this example of the friend who's supposedly stuck in traffic.
Oh, yeah, I've definitely heard that one before.
And they're giving you this really detailed explanation.
Yeah.
All about the traffic patterns and which streets are backed up.
Right, way too much information.
Totally. And then you ask a simple question.
Like, what highway are you on?
Exactly. And suddenly, they avoid eye contact.
Oh.
They start blinking rapidly. Maybe they even stammer a bit.
Interesting.
So it's that cluster of inconsistencies.
Right, it's not just one thing.
That suggests something might be up.
Yeah, like their story doesn't quite hold up.
Exactly.
Okay, that's super helpful. So we've talked about nonverbal cues, lie detection, but what about personality? Like, how can understanding someone's personality help us better understand their behavior?
That's a great question. And this part of the book dives into the idea that personality, it's essentially made up of consistent patterns of behavior.
Okay, so it's like their default setting.
In a way, yeah.
Got it.
And there are all these different frameworks that have been developed to understand these patterns.
Okay.
Like the big 5 personality traits.
Right, I've heard of that.
So that's openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism.
Okay.
It's a way of categorizing people based on these 5 broad dimensions.
And the MBTI, right?
Yes, the Myers-Briggs type indicator.
Yeah.
That's another popular one.
Okay.
And these are essentially tools
to
help us understand these recurring patterns in people's behavior.
So if you know someone is highly extroverted,
right,
you can kind of predict that they're going to be more outgoing than someone who's more introverted.
And they're probably going to seek out social interaction. They'll be energized by being around people.
Right.
Whereas an introvert might need more time alone to recharge.
Okay, that makes sense.
But the book also stresses that you can't just base your assessment on a single interaction. You need to observe these patterns over time.
Okay.
Someone might be having an off day.
Yeah, we all have those.
But their overall behavior will usually reveal their true personality.
Okay, so how can we use this knowledge to communicate more effectively?
Well, the book suggests tailoring your approach based on someone's likely personality traits.
Okay, I like that.
So if you're dealing with someone who's super logical,
right,
detail-oriented, maybe high in conscientiousness,
okay,
you'd want to present your ideas in a very structured way.
Like with data and evidence to back it up.
Exactly. A well-reasoned argument with clear steps and plans.
Got it.
But if you're dealing with someone who's more empathetic, more focused on relationships, maybe high in agreeableness, you might want to highlight the human impact of your ideas.
Oh, that's interesting.
Focus on building connection and rapport.
Okay, so it's like speaking their language. Based on their personality type.
Exactly.
I like that.
The book has this great example of a boss who's very conscientious.
Right.
Super organized, detail-oriented, the type who loves a good spreadsheet.
Right, I know the type.
So if you go into their office with a vague, enthusiastic pitch, it's probably not going to go well.
No, they'd be like, where's the data?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you come prepared with a structured plan, clear data, well-defined steps, they're much more likely to be receptive.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
It's about understanding how they process information. And tailoring your communication style accordingly.
Okay, so we've talked about internal motivations, nonverbal cues, potential deception, personality. But the book also explores external factors that can provide insights, right? It's like our physical surroundings.
Yeah, this is where we get into the idea that our environments and the possessions we choose to have, they can offer clues about who we are.
Really?
Yeah, think about it.
Okay.
The spaces we inhabit, the things we surround ourselves with.
Yeah.
They often reflect our values, our priorities,
In
even how we want to be perceived by others.
So it's like our environment is an extension of ourselves.
Exactly. It's a form of nonverbal communication.
I like that.
And what's really interesting is that the absence of certain items can be just as revealing as their presence.
Oh, that's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of that.
So, for example, if you visit someone's office and it's completely devoid of personal items.
Like no photos, no plants.
No knickknacks, nothing. What does that tell you?
I don't know. Maybe they're very minimalist.
It could be, yeah.
Or maybe they see their office as purely a place of work.
Right. They don't want to bring their personal life into it.
Interesting.
Or maybe they're just not very sentimental.
Okay.
So the book contrasts that with a home that's filled with personal touches.
Okay, yeah.
Photographs, books that reflect their interests,
Mm-hmm.
cozy blankets, things that make it feel lived in.
Right home.
Exactly. And that might indicate someone who's more sociable.
Okay.
Who values relationships and personal connections.
Interesting.
So it's like these environments are telling us stories.
Yeah, they're painting a picture of the person who lives there.
Absolutely.
So what should we be paying attention to? Like, what are some specific things to look for?
Well, it could be anything. The types of books someone reads.
Yeah.
The art they display. The level of organization in their workspace. Their clothing choices.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Someone who dresses in a very bold, attention-grabbing way.
Yeah.
Probably has a different self-perception than someone who prefers more understated styles.
So it's all about paying attention to the details.
It is.
And seeing what those details reveal about the person.
Exactly. It's like being a detective.
I love that.
Looking for clues in their surroundings.
Okay, this is making me want to redecorate my whole apartment.
Maybe just rearrange a few things.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit.
Just to see what message you're sending.
Okay, so environment can give us clues. What about the actual words people choose to use?
Oh, yeah. Language is a goldmine of information.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Because it reveals so much about how we think and how we feel.
Right.
So this part of the book focuses on word choice.
Okay.
And how it can provide insights into someone's thought processes and emotional states.
Interesting. So it's not just about the literal meaning of what they're saying?
It's also about the way they structure their sentences.
Okay.
The specific words they choose.
Yeah.
It can be really telling.
So give me an example.
Okay, so let's say someone uses a lot of concrete language.
Concrete language, okay.
Lots of specific details, precise descriptions.
Right.
That might suggest a more practical, detail-oriented way of thinking.
Okay.
But someone who uses more abstract language.
Yeah.
Focusing on broader concepts, ideas, metaphors.
Right.
They might be more conceptual or creative.
Interesting.
It's like their language reflects how their brain works.
Okay, I like that.
And then there's the use of jargon.
Jargon, yeah.
Those technical terms that are specific to a certain field.
Right, like we were just talking about flat effect.
Exactly. And sometimes overuse of jargon can actually be a sign of insecurity.
Really?
It's like they're trying to sound more knowledgeable.
Okay.
Or authoritative.
To compensate for maybe feeling a little bit out of their depth?
It could be, yeah.
Fascinating. And what about metaphors?
Metaphors are super interesting.
Okay.
Because they can reveal a lot about someone's underlying beliefs.
Okay, so like how?
So think about the difference between someone who says, life is a journey.
Okay.
And someone who says, life is a constant battle.
Right. Very different perspectives.
Totally. And those metaphors often reflect deeper unconscious beliefs about the world and their place in it.
So the life is a battle person. They might be more competitive.
It could be, yeah.
More prone to seeing obstacles everywhere.
Right. Whereas the life is a journey person might be more open to new experiences, more adaptable.
Okay, that makes sense.
So imagine you're in a meeting.
Yeah.
And one colleague keeps using combative metaphors.
Okay.
Saying things like, we need to attack this problem, or we're fighting an uphill battle.
Okay.
And their body language is tense. They're clenched up, leaning forward aggressively.
Oh, yeah, I can picture that.
Now, contrast that with another colleague who's using more open metaphors.
Okay.
Like, let's explore this path forward.
Right.
We need to cultivate a better understanding.
Okay, much calmer.
Exactly. And their body language is relaxed.
Yeah.
Open.